Today on Rappler. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney joins Filipinos and Vancouver locals in mourning the victims of a festival tragedy. The Philippines conducts an interagency maritime operation near 3 cays close to Pag-asa Island. Makati mayoral aspirant Luis Campos adds his wife's name, outgoing Mayor Abby Binay, to his campaign posters and the official ballot. And an Italian cardinal reiterates Pope Francis's call to build bridges, not walls, during the funeral homily. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney joins the Filipino community and Vancouver locals in mourning those killed after a man rammed a vehicle into a crowd at a Filipino community festival. Carney pauses his election campaign to travel to Vancouver on Sunday, April 27, a day after a 30-year-old Vancouver resident rammed an SUV through a crowd during the Lapu-Lapu Day block party, killing at least 11 people aged 5 to 65 and injuring dozens. The Vancouver police says in a post on X, Kaiji Adam Lowe was charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder by prosecutors in British Columbia, and, quote, further charges are anticipated. Authorities say Lowe had a, quote, significant history of mental health-related interactions with authorities and found no evidence of terrorism. Police say 24 people were injured, some critically, and the death toll could increase in the coming days or weeks. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says he was, quote, completely shattered to hear about the deadly incident. The Philippines announced on April 27 it carried out a, quote, interagency maritime operation near 3 cays close to Pag-asa or Thitu Island in the West Philippine Sea. The National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea says in a statement, the operation involved the Philippine Navy, Coast Guard, and National Police Maritime Group, reinforcing the country's routine exercise of maritime awareness and jurisdiction over the area. China's state broadcaster CCTV previously claimed that the China Coast Guard had taken control and asserted sovereignty over the area in early April, sharing photos of its Coast Guard raising the Chinese flag on one of the cays. The Philippines deploys 4 teams from various maritime units, including the Philippine Coast Guard, Philippine National Police Maritime Group, and Philippine Navy. The task force said the Philippine teams, quote, observed the illegal presence of China Coast Guard 5102, approximately 1,000 yards east of K2, as well as 7 maritime militia vessels near K2 and K3. Makati mayoral aspirant Luis Campos adds his wife's name, outgoing 3-term Mayor Abby Binay, to his campaign posters and the official ballot in an attempt to raise his chances of winning the mayoral post. In posters across the city, the name Abby Luis Campos is prominently featured. Despite being a 3-term congressman, Campos is not a household name in the city, unlike the famous Binay name. He is running against his sister-in-law, Senator Nancy Binay. The Binay family's grip on Makati runs deep. At least 4 Binays have held the city's top post: Binay Patriarch and former Vice President Jejomar, Matriarch Elenita, followed by Junjun, then Abby, who is term-limited and is now eyeing a spot in the Senate. The mayoral battle in Makati is interesting, with members of the same family fighting to lead one of the richest cities in the Philippines.
To help you make the best decision of who to vote for, we have all the information you need in one place, the Rappler election site. From comprehensive election guides and explainers to profiles of candidates both national and local, we bring you a newsfeed of all the latest updates on voters' issues and campaign moments. Check it out at ph.rappler.com.
Italian Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re calls for care for migrants, an end to wars, and action on global climate change in front of hundreds of world leaders attending the funeral of Pope Francis on Saturday, April 26. He also repeated one of the Pope's strongest criticisms of U.S. President Donald Trump, who was in the audience, by calling for, quote, building bridges, not walls. Pope Francis and Trump had exchanged criticisms for years, mainly over the Pope's calls to show compassion for migrants, whom Trump has often tried to deport. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, Argentine President Javier Milei, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Britain's Prince William, and former U.S. President Joe Biden also attended the solemn funeral. After the funeral, the bells of St. Peter's rang in mourning as a simple wooden coffin was placed on an open Pope-mobile and taken through central Rome to the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore. Francis, who avoided much of the luxury of being Pope during his 12-year papacy, had asked to be buried there instead of St. Peter's. The basilica is located in a neighborhood with migrants, the poor, and the homeless. The Vatican estimated more than 250,000 people attended the ceremony, but the burial itself was held in private. And that's today's wrap. I'm Kara Oliver. Thank you for watching. Click the link below for the full story. Follow us on Rappler's YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok.